Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Lisa and Lauren, thank you so much for a beautiful service. And thank you all, dear friends and family and members and visitors, for helping me to celebrate the 70th anniversary of my bat mitzvah. I especially want to thank Rabbi Lauren and the SAJ for letting me do this at least partial rerun back home. It truly feels more like an anniversary this way. My one regret is that we couldn't all be together live and on location. If nothing else, I was looking forward to watching the reaction of some of my friends and old friends and family, snapping their necks to the right as they walk into the sanctuary and realize that the bima had moved from the north wall to the east wall. Can we share a picture, please?
Rachel, I need to be a co-host.
Well, the SAJ instituted bat mitzvah in 1922. It only granted women the right to have aliyot in the spring before this picture was taken from the balcony of the SAJ. If you want to look closely on your left, Grandpa, Mordecai Kaplan, on the right, my father, Ira Eisenstein, in the middle, me, next to me, my mother having her aliyah, on the other side of me, Cantor Nathanson, and the two Gabayim. As I said, women were granted full equality only in this very year, 1951, and the Purim spiel that year featured a rousing rendition of 12 buxom babes from Shul Arawi, performed by a chorus line of 12 buxom babes. I very much wanted today to be an introduction to a celebration far more auspicious than my own, the centennial of the SAJ. The Reconstructionist movement began with the founding of the SAJ. My grandfather needed a place where he could have complete freedom of the pulpit, freedom to preach the radical ideas he was developing. The movement is now almost 100 years old, and my age cohort has been around for 80% of that history. Neither the SAJ nor the Reconstructionist movement is the little family business it was when I was a child. Just for example, I note that your current rabbi and my home rabbi, for that matter, in Bethesda, are both graduates of our own rabbinical college, which is true nachas. My own SAJ years were from my birth in 1938 to 1954 when we moved to Chicago. During those years, the SAJ was both metaphorically and literally my family. I was probably related to at least a third of the members. This was because my grandma, Lena Kaplan, had a whole batch of older siblings. These Reuben brothers and one sister, with their spouses and their adult or not so adult children, had loyally followed my grandfather from Kehilat Jeshurun to the Jewish Center to the SAJ. As a result, I was constantly surrounded by cousins, first, second, third, once removed, twice removed cousins, as well as my father's parents and my cousins on the Eisenstein side. By the way, two prominent contemporary rabbis are the children of just such SAJ second cousins. Rabbi Ellen Littman, founder of Kolot Chayenu in Brooklyn, is the daughter of my late cousin, Froma Bernstein Littman. And Rabbi Sharon Brous, founder of Ikar on the West Coast, is the daughter of my cousin Rick Brous. Neither of these rabbis grew up in the SAJ, but Froma and Rick certainly did, and were very much part of my early life. And I think Ellen is here today, and I think Rick is here today. The kids with whom I went to Hebrew school 3 times a week for years and years and years also felt like my cousins, whether they were or not. Recently, there was a Zoom-based reunion of a group of us who had been in the same Hebrew school class roughly from 1946 till whenever, till about 54. After that mini reunion, I gave a lot of thought to what the SAJ was like in those days. I can try to compare the SAJ I remember and the issues that were in the forefront then to what I perceive to be the major features of liberal congregations today. But do bear in mind that my SAJ experience was as a child, and specifically a child growing up in the years during and immediately after World War II, including the period in which the State of Israel came into being. I'm going to summarize my very unscientific study of the matter this way. While we still live in two civilizations, the balance has shifted radically. Our center of gravity, so to speak, is in a very different place. Today, all liberal synagogues I've encountered seem to be focusing on three things, which I'll call spirituality, social action, and inclusivity. Spirituality, meaning generally individual internal experiences identified as spiritual. More people, including the rabbis, are doing yoga and meditation and adapting aspects of these disciplines to Jewish practice, including synagogue services. Second, social action, particularly local social action. People are focusing and addressing local issues in our immediate communities. The third, a focus that is very familiar to those of you now at the SAJ, is on inclusivity, recognizing and welcoming the diversity of ethnicity, sexual preference, gender identity, racial identification, and ability of all people who identify as Jews or who are considering doing so. I can't honestly say that any of these were a major part of our agenda in the 1940s and 50s, or perhaps I was simply unaware of them. I was, after all, a child, and much might have been lost on me. On the other hand, I was certainly aware that we were in the business of promoting and developing Judaism as a civilization, to coin a term, in all its manifestations. Our Hebrew school, as well as our services, reflected this central value. The more I learn now looking back, I realize that our education was shaped by three great Jewish personalities, Achad Ha'am, Mordecai Kaplan, and Samson Benderly. And if you're not familiar with any of these people, as Hillel said, Seyu Lamad, go learn. We were not unique. We were part of a larger movement in Jewish education that is now long past. For example, in the 1940s, most traditional synagogues taught children Hebrew, principally so that they would learn to pray and be able to read a bar mitzvah portion. And of course, we needed to learn those things too. And we did learn the usual things people learned in Hebrew school, you know, holidays, chumash. We even had a pretty good junior congregation, but Hebrew meant a lot more than that. At the SAJ, from its inception in the 1920s, Hebrew language and the support generally of the Zionist enterprise were central, non-negotiable, and non-controversial. Our cantor, Moshe Nathanson, came from Jerusalem. We were the first Ashkenazi synagogue, as far as I know, to use the Havara, that is the Sephardic pronunciation of Hebrew. Our curriculum included much about chalutzim. We were learning Hebrew because it was seen as essential to Jewish civilization, as was the creation of a vibrant center of Jewish life in Palestine, whether it became a Jewish state or not. Perhaps it shouldn't be surprising that secular Zionist activists who normally wouldn't be caught dead in shul were willing to come to the SAJ on occasion. And I later realized Aliyah was always an unspoken option, under consideration on and off by various members of my own family, but carried out by Rabbi Jack Cohn and his. I was never a member of a Zionist youth movement, nor did I know many kids who were, at least until high school when I knew many. As an adult, though, I often find that I have much in common with people who had grown up in Habonim or even Shomer HaTzair, often more than I had in common with other synagogue-raised kids. Second, the SAJ was known for its emphasis on Jewish culture in the broadest sense of that term. In the 1940s, we had a professional choir director, Chemio Vinover, widely known and recognized for his broad knowledge of synagogue and non-synagogue Jewish music. The choir, largely volunteer, sang a cappella every Shabbat. But unlike the situation in some larger conservative and all Reform temples, the choir did not displace congregational singing. It supplemented robust congregational participation much enhancing the aesthetics of the service. I'm not sure whether Winover composed music, but both Hal Axe and Sipora Yochsberger, who followed Winover in that position, composed original music or arranged music for the choir. Many of us participated in the choir in our teen years. In Hebrew school, we had regular assemblies on Sunday mornings in which Mr. Nathanson would teach us songs. I still hear them in his voice that we sing, V'samachta b'chagecha, etc. Mr. Nathanson also saw to it that we were all trained to chant not only Torah and Haftarah, but Megillat Esther, Book of Ruth, and Song of Songs. And from about the age of 12 on, we were expected to carry the burden of chanting those books. Art, music, and even drama were always vital parts of the scene. The mural depicting different strands of the Yishuv in Palestine is still on the social hall wall. It's on the wrong wall, but it's there. It was painted by our very own social realist, Tamima Ghazari. We put on plays for the congregation in shul. I recall running down the center aisle myself, brandishing a sword, in a Hanukkah play that was entirely in Hebrew. We had elaborate Bikurim festivals in which we carried baskets of fruits to the bima on Shavuot, singing, of course, Saleinu, Achtefeinu, etc. And we were taken to see plays put on by the Jewish Education Committee, really good plays. They were always shown in the auditorium of Joan of Arc Junior High School. We conducted all school Sidarim. Picture, please. There we are. Is it shared? Hold on. We conducted all school Sidarim, in which everyone from age 8 to 15 had a role, and in which we all practiced singing all the songs. Briefly, this is me between Carol Friedman, now Gilligan, and the Dormouse over there. That's my cousin Daniel Musher.
Who's also here.
They're both here today. The highlight of the year, though, were the cantatas. You can take this off. The cantatas, productions regularly written and produced by my parents, performed by the confirmation class with the entire Hebrew school population as the chorus. These were written as educational vehicles, and once published, they always became bestsellers, second only, I believe, to the 1941 Haggadah. They drew on history, poetry, folk music, and liturgy. They involved narration, song, and drama. I have discovered that of all that was taught in the Hebrew school, more people remember more from the cantatas than from any other facet of the curriculum. In conclusion, the SAJ was founded to give a platform for Kaplanian theology and to give him total freedom of expression from the pulpit. The experience, however, was of an experiment in living in two civilizations and promoting all facets of the culture of the Jewish people. And while there was plenty of room for argument and disagreement about many things, the basic principles of Reconstructionism were clear and articulated. Frankly, it was probably not nearly the big tent you might imagine to be typically Reconstructionist in today's terms. Meanwhile, I'm grateful that the SAJ is still here to tell the tale, and I hope that that tale will be told during the centennial, and especially at the Reconstructionist Convention next year. Thank you so much for the opportunity to celebrate and to reminisce, and Shabbat Shalom.